Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting and acknowledge that the city of Winkler is situated on Treaty 1 land, the home of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homelands of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories, but acknowledge that there have been many mistakes and harms in the past. But today we dedicate ourselves to a future based on respect of all peoples, including Indigenous communities, in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration, moving forward to a harmonious, prosperous future together. I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda.
Marvin.
Marvin got you, Andrew. Andrew is the second. We see that there. Do we have any additions to that agenda?
One addition,
Okay.
it's the MEDIP grant application resolution.
Okay.
Do you have that ready?
Where would we like to put that, David?
We'll put it at the end under additions.
Perfect. You're okay with that, Andrew?
Yep.
Anything further from council? Okay, with that addition, all in favor? And we're carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of September 12th, 2023 be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second?
Peter.
Peter? The minutes are attached for your review. Well, thank you, Councillor Platt, for chairing that meeting as Andrew and I were not here. From all reports, you handled it admirably, and Andrew and I were not missed at all.
And it didn't affect our budget.
And it didn't affect the budget. Any other comments on the minutes as you see them?
No.
All in favor? Carried. We'll run then through our correspondence. You see two pieces of correspondence there. The Boundary Trails Clinical Teaching Unit letter. Nice to see again that that program continues to have good success. 7 family residents are in the area now. Hopefully a few of them choose, at least a few of them, choose to stay in our region. And also the Winkler Heritage Society Summer Newsletter. Loads of information there for your review as well. Any comments on what you see there? Continuing on then to finance. Be it resolved that accounts payable in the amount of $1,066,872.04 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover.
Don Friesen.
Second.
Andrew?
Comments? As always, the check register is attached for your review. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that local improvement bylaw number 2303-23, a bylaw to authorize the expenditure and borrowing for the upgrade and expansion of the existing water treatment facility, be read a second time. Mover?
Peter.
Second?
Michael.
Okay, Michael got it. As you can see, that is included there. Do you have any questions on it? David, is there anything particular we should be aware of here?
No, so we received it back early this week from the
Okay.
municipal board. So that's all approved. And so we will just have second and third and then send a final submission to them. But that concludes then the borrowing bylaw for the water treatment plant.
Excellent. And as people are looking at it, it's important to mention when you see the interest rates and the numbers that are there, those
Right.
are maximums.
Absolutely.
That is not the expectation that we'll be able to, that we'll have to borrow at that rate. But in order to make sure that this bylaw is the absolute maximum, we don't have to change it and then go back to the province for change. We put these numbers in here. When we get going, we'll negotiate the best rates possible. And
That's
our
correct.
expectations, similar to the past, that those numbers will be less. Any further thoughts or questions? All in favor? Carried. That takes us then to be it resolved that local improvement bylaw 2303-23 be read a third and final time. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Marvin.
Last opportunity for questions. All in favor? Carried. Moving then to our planning department, be it resolved that the planning committee minutes for the September 14, 2023 meeting be received for information. Mover.
Don Friesen.
Second.
Don Fair.
Everything is attached there. Is there anything we need to pay attention to, gentlemen?
Think so. The levies, working on those, and I think finalize those for starting March. And then just that vacant lot discussion, which has been on the,
There's quite a bit back and forth on that.
and well, that's been for the last 10 years probably,
And,
since the Herb Dick days. And,
based on the communication we've had from the province, likely that discussion doesn't need to go much further. We have very little ability to do anything in
correct.
that regard.
Yep.
Any other comments on what you see?
Does this put the wastewater reserve levy in place then already, or is there other files that need to happen after?
No, it wouldn't put it in place, it would give us the direction to move that forward,
Okay.
to change the fees and charges bylaw accordingly.
Okay.
Because I think March of next year, I think,
That would,
March of next year, we are planning to implement it, correct?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
so we are, I should have checked.
Yeah, check.
Thanks, Wendy. So we, based on the direction from the committee, we had started preparing the fees and charges bylaw update to incorporate the direction that the committee provided. Now that council had, assuming council accepts it with no changes to direction, we'll continue that forward and bring that to one of the October council meetings.
anything further?
You'll also be getting the numbers from Pema Valley Water Co-op. I guess you can put those at the same time. No, that's just a flow through, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, not seeing anything further. All in favor?
Receiving minutes? Yeah.
Carried. Be it resolved that the South Central Regional Library minutes for the September 11th, 2023 meeting be received for information. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second.
Peter.
Attached, as always, a very robust package from the library. Any questions or comments on what you saw?
I know as far as numbers of users that use the Winkler Library are considerably higher. They're just amazing at how many people are using our facility there.
I saw that in the minutes. Really good use
Yeah.
this summer. So it's nice. Anything further? All in favor? Carried. That takes us to our delegations and hearings. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover.
Michael.
Second.
Marvin.
All in favor? Carried. We'll then move into public hearing for conditional use number CU 2023-013 at 480 George Avenue. David, if you can
Yes.
help us with that.
Yep, absolutely. And before we start with the public hearings, I'd just like to mention for everyone that came out to this council meeting, if you like to speak on behalf of a public hearing, we would ask you to come to the mic and please address the chair with any questions or concerns or comments that you have. So the first public hearing that we have is an application for a conditional use. And that's application number CU 2023-013. And the applicant is Jensen's Paint and Decorating. The owner is Derek Penner and Marcia Penner. It's at 480 George Avenue. And the request is to allow a large retail store at that location. And a large retail store right now is a conditional use in that zoning, which is M industrial zone.
Okay, thank you, Dave. There are some additional notes as well for council there in your shared notes. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this hearing? Not seeing anybody here. Does council have any comments before we close the hearing?
This is a temporary location?
This is a temporary location as they look to rebuild.
Paint shop is right there as well, right, in that area, yeah.
Yeah. So they're more or less across the street from where their temporary paint shop is now.
Right, okay.
This would be a retail store.
Right.
Specifically for
The
Jensen.
toys and hobbies and that
Yep.
kind of it, okay, cool.
Okay. No other questions? Be it resolved that public hearing for conditional use number CU 2023-013 be closed. Mover.
Peter?
Second.
Andrew?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve the conditional use number CU 2023-013, subject to an occupancy permit. Mover.
On reason?
Second.
John Fair?
Any final thoughts or comments from council? I think it's really good that despite extraordinary circumstances that this business has dealt with over the course of the last year from that devastating fire, that in the community they found people to be able to help them to move forward as they design and look to rebuild. And this final step that allows them to operate as close to normal as possible through that Christmas season is nice to see.
Very, very much.
All in favor? We're carried. We'll move then on to public hearing for subdivision number 4463-23-8312 at 540 Pemmon Avenue.
Correct. That's public hearing for a subdivision, and the applicant is Triple E Developments. And the proposal is to subdivide 4 new industrial commercial lots that gains access off a proposed new public road on extension of Airport Drive, where portions of the existing road will be require road closing bylaw. And so this information has been shared with Triple E, and the recommendation that is attached, the report to council, as well as with Steve. Steve, happy that you came out here. And so far we have not received any concerns back. I hope council had a chance to go through the report. And if there's any questions on the report, on the proposal, on the information that we shared, on the attachments, I know there's quite a few attachments on this subdivision. Mm-hmm. And then right now we would have time to talk about it. This would also somewhat impact the current land sales that we had at 440 Airport Drive, where we split that lot and half of it was sold to Triple E Developments and half of it was sold to Moonlight Auto Body.
Okay, is there anybody here wishing to speak to this? Steve Freund, I'll ask you to come to the microphone and I guess formally state your name.
I'm Steve Freund on behalf of Moonlight Auto Body. I guess just a couple questions I have in regards under the topic of development fees and levies. We're in the middle of purchasing half of the 440, like it was said. It's a very limited use lot, so it's not a very profitable lot at this point. Recommendation is that Triple E Developments would be taking care of the pavement, or the paving or cementing of the road in front of our lots. Is this something that it's put in as recommended? Is this something that's looking at changing? Or I wouldn't want to be putting out a whole pile of money like in the, it's looking at it here being another almost $60,000 going across a lot that is really going to be mowed and put some cars on our part.
Correct.
Where they're looking at making a development for profit. So I would like to see the recommendation stay that it would be at their cost to extend the road to their area there.
Right.
So that there is, I guess, my major concern there, because we're looking not to get landlocked, that's why we bought, you know, the half, but it's not a very profitable piece, but it does give us some breathing room. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for your comments. Council have any questions or comments for Steve? Each one of you have obviously had the opportunity to read the report to council and the three options that are put forward for those fees and the recommendation that's there.
If the road extends on your piece of property, is it not a normal thing to pay for whatever frontage is in front of your property?
Sure, I can jump in, yeah. So it depends on the circumstance. So with leapfrog development, if the infrastructure is not installed, typically it would be put on the developer that is extending the service. If it's done by local improvement, which under the 2018 development agreement when Lode King or Triple E Canada had originally subdivided some off, when we own the land, as the city of Winkler, when I say we, the intent was local improvement, and the city of Winkler is a contributing factor when that incremental development happens. The city of Winkler hadn't moved forward with developing that road further, and now it's leapfrogging that development. So it could be done either way, and that's why they were both shown as options. We would still recommend that that those be on the developer in this situation, being Triple E
Okay.
Canada. Yeah.
Further questions?
So the original agreement in 2018 said developer had to,
The original agreement in 18 was local improvement.
yeah.
And associated costs of the road construction will be shared of each owner based on percentage land frontage
Yeah.
fronting the street.
So, and in this instance, the suggestion is that this is now leapfrog development, in which case our general rule of thumb has been that whoever causes that leapfrogging is responsible for the cost. Do we know, Scott, if this, if time is urgent in this, or is there some opportunity to recess for 2 weeks to dive in a little bit deeper into those recommendations with the developer?
So I know there was a desire for the subdivision to move forward in terms of specific timelines. I'm not familiar.
Okay.
What additional information would council
I think-
need to make that decision? Because at this point, I don't know if there would be any additional information that we could
I
provide.
think typically, when we have somebody here, we're able to ask directly, are they aware with the report to council? Do they have any concern with it? And in this instance today, we don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, it was shared. I can confirm receipt of it. Whether they read the report, I can't confirm.
Correct.
And so the applicant was aware that the hearing was today.
How long ago did we share that report with them?
I'd have to look at my email,
Okay.
but yeah,
Within days or within weeks?
it was last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
It would be good to know what the the other party has to say in this whole thing before we can make any decision.
And I think in this situation, that would be certainly part of it. Definitely, it's one of the reasons, again, that we love having the people that have something on our agenda here, so that we're able to have those conversations if we need to. We have a recommendation from our staff that they believe treats fairly. The only piece on that that's a little bit of a wrinkle for me is the 2018 agreement that suggests local improvement. In this instance, it's now different, and in that situation, The difference, probably, or not probably, Scott, you can likely confirm that change, that difference is what now brings this recommendation.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, when we move forward, should we approve, it's subject to a development agreement that's here. In this instance, though, Scott, just help me to make sure that I follow this clearly.
Mhm.
The development agreement would need to have direction from council on this point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're still changing the development agreement that was signed in 2018.
Right.
Conditions have changed, though, in terms of how that development is moving forward.
But
But yes, yeah. So
So-
factoring in that not all conditions are exactly the same as
Correct.
they were in 2018. So conditions have changed. And hence the different recommendation.
I would feel more comfortable getting a comment from the other party.
Absolutely. Can
I
we
mean,
table,
'cause-
make a motion to table this for
Well,
2 weeks?
Quite a-
Recess would be,
Quite honestly, I mean, that's why we have this public hearing now.
Yeah.
Both parties were aware of this public hearing, and this would be the time now that they could bring up their concerns. I mean, that's why we have a public hearing.
correct.
Know that they don't show up, it makes it more difficult, but this is technically the time when they should bring up their concerns, if they have the concerns. By not showing up, almost, they give a sign off that they're not concerned about it.
No,
That's what I would take from the two.
so so help me just understand, the condition that has changed from the agreement dated on the 18th.
2018 was, at that point, option 2 was the way forward. The suggestion today is for option 1.
But what I'm still understanding, how do you change the signed agreement?
So the condition that has changed is that there is no anticipated timeline on development further east.
Yeah.
At that time. And the city having been fully in control of, I always mix up the numbers. What is the number that we're subdividing? 440?
Yes.
Yeah, 440, thank you. With the city no longer fully in control on that, that condition wasn't part of those sales to either Triple E Canada or is it Lode King? Either way.
It's Triple E Canada.
And Moonlight. So, at the end of the day, it's council's decision on what it is. We have our recommendation. Steve has expressed his concern.
I do believe in this instance, I'd like to recess for 2 weeks to get that additional comment to find out if and when there's a concern on a normal basis. The recommendation makes good sense. To Don's point, though, that 2018 piece, to have a conversation to see what that could be, I suspect, in all likelihood, we won't have any concern, and
Yeah,
we'll be able to have that conversation quickly and it moves forward, but I think we should have that conversation. But I would ask council whether or not they agree.
Hearing no.
No, do not close the hearing
Correct.
if you want to accept that information.
Because we can't close it if we're going to accept new.
And I mean, to David's point earlier, this is the
Typically, this
opportunity
would
for
be
the,
the opportunity.
Yeah.
for the input, and so,
Yep.
yeah. We would recommend that this be the opportunity for them to provide their input. Again, it's still council's decision on how to proceed.
I'll look for the group. We either, I'll entertain a motion to recess, or I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing and move forward with the decision.
I'll make a motion to recess.
we need a second for that as well. David?
I believe so, yep.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Oh, second.
Don Friesen? All in favor? All
To,
opposed to recessing?
okay. I'm opposed to recessing, and it's simply,
Then you would
my
like,
preference would be just to go ahead with.
Correct.
Okay.
so opposed to the recess is
Okay. I will-
1, 2. So we're 5-2. Michael and Peter were opposed to the recess. The 5 carry, and we're recessed for 2 weeks. Or until next council meeting.
Until next council. Okay.
That takes us to the end of our public hearings. Be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council reconvene. Mover?
Peter?
Second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. That takes us to our additions. Specifically, where the province of Manitoba has developed the Municipal Economic Development Infrastructure Program, MEDIP for short, an application that is due October 6th, 2023. And whereas the MEDIP program supports the following project categories: public safety, meaning climate resiliency and fire stations, and roads, bridges, and active transportation. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Winkler apply for the following eligible projects totaling $4.81 million, requesting that the province of Manitoba provide 70% funding towards the projects for a total grant amount of $3.367 million, and commit to fund the remaining $1.443 million for those projects. Mover.
Merman.
Second.
Michael?
Michael got it. These projects, again, are projects that are going to increase and offer some economic opportunities for the City of Winkler. These are projects that we really would like to see happen. The fact that the province of Manitoba announced a $44 million rural fund stream earlier this year, with now a funding deadline here, our staff have worked hard to put together a group of projects that, should we be successful in our application, will help to move some of the projects that we really need forward more quickly and more affordably for the citizens of Winkler. Best of luck to us. Any other comments? All in favor? That is carried. And that takes us to our Manitoba Crime Stoppers presentation.
Good evening. My name is Fran, and I'm here on behalf of Manitoba Crime Stoppers to do 2 things.
Okay.
First, to tell you that Manitoba Crime Stoppers may possibly help with probably one of the most common complaints that everybody in Manitoba gives to their government. What do you do about crime? We're overrun by it. If there's a person in this room that hasn't heard that complaint from somebody, I'd like to meet you. Manitoba Crime Stoppers is one of the few organizations in Manitoba, in the entire province, that is effective in helping cut down on the amount of crime in every single community in the province. Manitoba Crime Stoppers covers all of the communities from the border through to Churchill. The only 2 places that we don't operate are Winnipeg and Brandon, because they have their own. So I'm here on behalf of Manitoba Crime Stoppers to tell you that it's a very effective organization. It's effective because it's anonymous. The RCMP tell us that the main reason that they can't solve crimes is because people know but won't talk to them. They're afraid. Manitoba Crime Stoppers, with the anonymous tip line, is probably the safest way to convey information to the RCMP. It goes through a separate crime telephone line, computer system. It's standalone. It has no contact with the internet. No one is ever identified by anything but a number. And while we do offer rewards for tips that result in arrests, very few people actually phone back and ask for them. And if you don't phone back, we don't know who you are. So unless you phone up and say, I'm number 249, that money's sitting in the bank for the next 50 years. So we would like to help your community by publicizing our organization, the TIPS number. Now, we get our funding from communities that we basically serve. On average, we ask for about 25 cents per person in the community, which isn't a huge amount of money. Our problem is that because of what we do, we don't really fit under your grant application structure. We need to talk to you and see if you can find a way of working us into your budget somehow, because the grants aren't, the forms just don't fit us. We're unique. We're good. We work. We have recovered over $1 million of stolen property in the last 5 years. That's a lot of stuff. We've solved drug crimes, we've solved violence, we've solved vandalism. We have helped in lots and lots and lots of ways. One of the ways that we're going to help your community in the next couple of months, hopefully before Christmas, although I have no control over the translation services at the RCMP, is to provide you with some signs, 2 in English, 2 in French, with our number that we will give to Winkler to put up on various fences, yards, yard works, wherever you think you can make use of them. That's our gift to you. So we're hoping that you can help us out with a little bit of funding. And if that doesn't work, we're hoping that you can maybe help us with a little bit of publicity, shall we say, where if you have an electronic sign sitting on the road, you could put up Crime Stoppers and the TIPS number. If you have an electronic sign in the building, we'd like something like that. If you have a glass door and you don't mind putting a sticker on it, I'll give you a sticker to stick on the glass door so that people know. Our biggest problem and the difficulty we have is getting people to know, first of all, that the tip line is safe and anonymous. And the second problem we have is getting people to know what kind of information to call in. It's pretty simple. It's who did it, when did they do it, where did they do it, and although I'd like to say why, that's not a question we can answer, but the big one is, how do you know? Did you hear this at the coffee shop? Were you on Main Street when you saw them go by and throw the rocks at the car and you just happened to realize that it was your cousin's uncle? And you don't want to turn him in, or heaven forbid that it was your next door neighbor's kid. But you know. So you phone the TIPS line, the sergeant there will take your information anonymously, put it down on a sheet of paper. It takes, for a good tip, about half an hour to give the information. That's something people don't know. But that information is usually so solid that the RCMP can actually take and start an investigation. It's not a witch hunt. Nobody can, do anything until we know everything. And the RCMP have to have cause to start an investigation. But once they've started it, that information really works well. And our Crime Stoppers is one of the few organizations that really keep your community safe. You can talk about Neighborhood Watch, that's very good. I'm involved with COPP. There's lots of communities that have that, reporting back to the RCMP. But Crime Stoppers covers us all, rural, municipal, cities, whatever. So I'm really hoping that I can convince you that we need your help so we can help you. Any questions?
Well, thank you for that informative and very passionate presentation. Question I would have is, you mentioned RCMP when a report comes in.
Yes.
We have our own municipal service.
Mhm.
Does that information flow then to our members?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
The TIPS line is connected primarily with the RCMP because they're the main policing unit. But they share the information with local police forces. Believe it or not, they share a lot with MPI,
Okay.
which surprises people. It's shared with the Treaty 1 policing agents and any of the local ones between Brandon Police Force, Winnipeg Police Force, here if you have it.
Yeah.
And they do get it, and it does work.
Excellent.
Anything else?
I was just looking at our Winkler Police Service website here. There's, I think a good thing would be to have a link on there. There's no link on there, which I think would be a good idea. I just noticed that in the past, Crime Stoppers used to do a lot of advertising on TV and radio, which looks like it, I feel it has probably stopped to the extent that it was used to happen. So I guess you have to try and find more creative ways to advertise.
We're working at it. They did have the See Something, Say Something program just before COVID to deal with basically drug use, because the majority of the tips that come into Crime Stoppers are about drug use. And we did have a special series of ads that were run from that. The little dramatizations of the thief breaking in, we haven't done. I'm not really sure why, because I'm enough of a ham that I'd probably be willing to go and do that. But we haven't actually found a way to do that. But if you could put our information on your website, that would be a wonderful way for you to help us.
Right.
So, and anywhere else that you can think of to stick the information. Because of COVID, a lot of things got shut down. And we're just in the process of trying to, shall we say, I won't say regroup, but expand. And the other thing that we wouldn't mind having is a lovely little volunteer who'll come to our meetings and do things like this in the southern part of the province. We have people, we're trying to spread people out across the province, but we are looking for a couple more board members. And it's not a terribly difficult job as long as you're kind of passionate about Crime Stoppers.
Excellent.
Okay, anything else? Oh, come on, somebody's got to have a question.
I did. Come on, guy.
Yeah, come on, one or two more. As I said, our big problem is that while we can apply for your grants, we don't fit. It's just, it's not exactly a community service or a community program, but it is extremely effective.
Well, certainly your timing couldn't have been much better. We're 3 weeks from the first round of planning for our 2024 budget.
Okay,
So we'll take a look at that and the request.
all right.
It's nice to have a specific request that helps us be able to have that discussion in terms of what that does or doesn't look like. I will mention that the asks are significant and many, many more than we can fulfill, but we'll definitely bring this one up as well.
Yeah, we're really aware that money is tight. And if we are able to get something from you, that will be wonderful. And if not, the free things that you can do by putting it on your website and
Absolutely.
your signs, that would be very helpful.
Excellent.
And since you are all gentlemen here, I'm assuming that this kind of little hand here
Thank you.
will maybe make more sense to you than the ladies. I usually save the shopping bags for the ladies.
These are for keys, I would imagine.
They're for anything you want to use them for.
For earrings.
Personally, I use it for holding my gym bag
For an
at the
earring.
fence at pickleball.
I need
You
two.
know what? I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Okay. Pickleball, yeah. Let's get off that.
Thank you.
Let's get off that topic.
I was thinking the same thing.
That's what they do
Thank you very much.
That's not bad.
You're a guy too, so I'll give you that.
Thank you. First rodeo.
And I do have some
tell.
more in there. If you'd like one of those, I'll give you that.
Well, I would say-
Here's a pen here.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
The PowerPoint thing, please look at it at your convenience. I shipped it over here. It's got a lot of background on it.
Yes.
but I only had 15 minutes.
Hey, I've got one more question for you.
Yes.
Do you have communities that have signs when they're coming in the community that they have Crime Stopper signs or,
That's what we're in the process of producing.
okay,
And I worked in the education system where you got things done because you had to have it for the next day, and if you had 2 days, it was a luxury.
right.
I'm discovering that the business world takes a little bit longer to get things out. So sometime between now and Christmas, we're hoping to give you some signs. We don't have a lot of signs at the entrance to a community.
I would just think that that would, not necessarily, but it could be a probability that, you know, someone might say, oh, wow, they're promoting Crime Stoppers here, so chances if I get caught, you know, are a lot more likely than if I go elsewhere.
We're working on that. I think they used to have them, but if they did, honestly, it was before my time on the board. So I don't know, but we are trying to get the number out there, so. You get 2 signs in English, 2 signs in French. I don't know if Winkler needs French, but
Or maybe a
German.
few.
somebody might. And as soon as the RCMP translation services translates it into French, the printer will be making them, and you will probably be getting them in the mail with a letter that says, we kind of recommend this type of place, but that's, you're free to put it wherever you like.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
That takes
Hopefully you
us,
won't have any more crime in Winkler.
Yeah.
Not after this.
let's hope not.
That's it.
It's surprising. It really is. Every time I go somewhere, there's so much crime.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that anything works, but this helps. So thank you very much for having me and allowing me to come to your meeting. And if you have any further questions, I will leave my card with Jennifer and you can call me.
Right on.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah.
That brings us to questions from the media or public relevant to this meeting of council. We have nobody left in chambers, nobody online. That will then move us to adjournment, and I'll look for a resolution to adjourn this regular meeting of council. Mover,
Don.
John, second.
Peter.
All in favor? Carried. Have a good evening.